Whether you visit our many historic sites, explore our thousands of acres of parks, launch a business, or study at one of our acclaimed universities, you'll agree Mercer County has it all. Mercer County, picture yourself here. Mercer County Executive Brian Hughes and the Board of Commissions are proud to sponsor Mercer Local Influencers.
Presenting Mercer Local Influencers, featuring leaders in our community whose positive influence is bringing energy, growth, and vitality to Mercer County. Presented by YourTownTube.com, Fifth Feb and WellTube, and Stimulus Brand.
Welcome, Mercer County. Here we are on the set of Mercer Influencers, the show about the special people, places, and spaces that we call home here in Mercer County. I am thrilled to welcome Joanne Canady-Brown from the Gingered Peach. We've been talking for weeks about getting together, probably months. And I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great, you're welcome. For many of you who know the Gingered Peach, you may know Jo, but just to run down a list of accolades, Jo is a mother of two, wife to a great guy, Matt. They live in the area. Jo is a graduate of Rutgers University. She got into the business in sort of a wonderful story because your work was really on the business side, not on the baking side.
Correct.
So you're not classically trained as you've described as a baker.
Correct.
Let's see, what else is on that list? Oh, you're a star of the Today Show.
That's true. that was a thing.
Great. But I think in your business, the James Beard Foundation has occupied a big space in your plans and what you've done so far in your career.
Yeah, my fellowship from the James Beard Foundation in 2018 really changed the trajectory of my career and kind of like took, all right, well, maybe this is the ceiling, and it just pushed it way out. So like now I've got a ton more work to do, but in a good way.
But in getting that award, you didn't get it just because you knew how to bake a classic croissant.
No, it was for female entrepreneurs. They chose 20 women nationally to participate in it, and it was competitive, and I can't believe I got it, but I'm so glad that I did, and it was incredible.
So there was almost an application process where you had to submit your business planning.
It was a massive application process. It was like a full regular application, and then on top of that, you had to submit your profit and loss statements for the last 3 years to prove like one, you're a real business, two, you are on the upswing or you're growing, you're showing growth in it. You had to write a personal statement. You had to submit your resume. It was tough. It took me a while to complete the application. But yeah, I'm glad I did it.
And throughout the time since, you've been looking back on that to say, what can I tweak? How do I fulfill this plan?
Yeah, a lot of the fellowship with the Beard Foundation kind of circled around. They basically said, we're going to identify 20 women who we think who want to grow their business but need help, right? And everyone needs a different kind of help, right? My help that I needed was touch so many different bases, right? It was financial, it was mentorship, it was everywhere. And then you just kind of come there and you tell them like, okay, they basically say to you, where do you want to go with this, right? And then you kind of throw these ideas out there, and you're one surrounded by 19 other women who have their own ideas of what growth are, so they have, hey, this is what I've done, or this is what I've tried, or I love that, or I hate that, or have you thought about this? And then they give you access to all these mentors who would just do different things in our industry, whether they're real estate or they're chefs or they're investors, but they're not to invest in us, but to give us advice on how to move forward.
And that mentorship continues. It's not something that you say, hey, it ended after a year, they're on to the next crop of entrepreneurs. And
so like the formal mentorship ended after a year, but we had, you lay a certain amount of roots during that process, right? And you get close to those people, and then when those mentors, and then perhaps they're working on a project or they're throwing an event and they think of you, you then kind of get pulled in, and it could be from, oh, can you do the cupcakes for this? Or it could be, hey, I think you'd be a great speaker. Like I just returned from Charleston for FAB, which is a women's, I don't want to call it a conference because it's not that. It's a workshop. Like, we're there to work. We go there, women from all over the country come in and we're like, how do we change the industry in the future? And I ended up sitting on a panel at that conference as part of a special dinner for Leven Bakery in New York City. Because of my James Beard Fellowship. It became, well, you know, who'd be great to be part of this conversation? This person. So yeah, it just kind of keeps going. Yeah.
That's great. Let's go back to some of the roots discussion. Your roots are in New Jersey.
Yes.
You are from Hoboken.
Yes. Yeah, I was, when my grandfather emigrated here from Italy, that's where they settled. And we lived there until what happened with Hoboken, everybody knows. The rents just skyrocketed. And then when I was a kid, probably like in like maybe second grade, third grade, we moved to West New York, New Jersey, which is right next to Hoboken. And I spent a majority of my childhood and my teen time growing up there. So yeah, I'm a Hudson County girl through and through.
Yeah. Great views of Manhattan.
Great views of Manhattan. You know, literally, I lived on 59th Street between Broadway and Park Avenue. So if I came off my porch and made a left and walked 2 blocks, I'm literally looking at the New York skyline. And it never was a big deal to me until I got to college and I brought my friends that I met at college. Oh, you can come stay at my parents' house for the night. And it was like, this is where you live? And I'm just like, because it's a city. It was the city.
Right.
And so, yeah, Jersey, all day, every day.
And Rutgers, and then somewhere along the way you met this man, Matt. And Matt's also from that area, correct?
Yeah, Matt was born in Jamaica.
Right.
And then he came here when he was 12 with his parents and his 3 brothers. And they lived in Montclair. So I was I was going to school at Rutgers, but at the time, okay, so let's just like set the tone here.
Okay.
This is before laptops were accessible to the average person.
Right.
So this is back when there were like internet cafes. So there was a place that I worked at in Hoboken called, I was at Rutgers, but I would come back and work the weekends or one weekday, called The Office. And you would go there and you could have color copies made. You can use their computers. You could, like one year I worked on the Armani Exchange swatch book. They did a lot of printing jobs. And I was working there about a couple of months, maybe 6, 7 months. And they were like, hey, this new guy's coming in. We hired him to fix computers. We just need you to show him how to use the register, how to use the copy machines. He's an engineering student at Stevens. And I was like, all right, whatever. Sounds good. You know, because I met other people and taught other people stuff. And that was my husband, Matt. Well, back then he was just like some dude. And
but he became the guy.
But then he became the guy. And now he's like my husband. And we've been married 15 years.
Now, Matt is responsible for getting you down to our area.
Yes.
So now it's your area.
Well, because we were dating, and he's like, why are you paying $2,100 a month for rent? Like, that's not even my mortgage. But I was living in Jersey City. I was living my best single girl life. And then he proposed, and I was like, okay, so you're going to come live up here with me, right? And he's just like, no, I own a house. You should come live here. And we had originally made a deal that, because I was kicking and screaming. Because once again, I'm a city girl.
Right.
Life's a little bit slower here.
And the view across the water here is not what it is.
It's not the same. It's not bad, and it's not worse. It's just not the same. Right. It just wasn't what I was used to. But he said, I'll make a deal with you. Give it 2, 3 years, 3 years at the most. If you hate it, we will revisit moving back to North Jersey. But then, like, once I was here, I realized that it's not all that bad. And also, my husband was anchored with a company that he really, really enjoyed working for. And it was selfish to say, no, increase your commute by 2 hours because I want to live in the city.
Right.
So I figured I'd give it a fair shot. And part of that was making this my home too. And that's creating my own identity here.
And in creating that identity, you had a original business in Ewing, the transition to Lawrenceville where you are now.
Yes.
What attributes of this area did you look around and say, hey, this could work. This could be the place that you're beginning to form this vision of what you want to do?
I'll be honest with you. The startup for Let the Me Cake, which is my original bakery, and the Ginger Peach was so lean I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really looking at attributes. I was like, what landlord, right? Okay.
That's an attribute.
For real. What landlord is going to be willing to let me sign a lease on a property to open a bakery when I don't even have the money to renovate it? Like, who's gonna let this broke chick come in all crazy with 2 little babies and open a bakery? I
want to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And I'll be there at 3 o'clock in the morning. I will tell you the one attribute that I looked for was I'm really big on reclaiming my time, like being mindful of how my time is spent. And when I moved down here, I had spent an hour and 45 minutes commuting to my old corporate job. And I was like, whatever I do, I want my commute to be under 20 minutes. So when I was looking for bakery spaces, I was like 20 minutes in every direction, and let's see where I land. And it was just like the stars aligned with Lawrence, and everything just fit into place. So I was like, this works, and I can afford it, so let's do it.
And you continued this process of not only raising the kids,
Yeah.
Matt's working, and he's raising them with you, but getting up, turning the ovens on in the middle of the night, and getting things going.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We had a sleepover. I let my daughter have her first sleepover, so it was like 11-year-olds like running around my house acting crazy. And one of the moms, I had never met her, so she of course wanted to introduce to me on the phone. And she was just like, our kids went to elementary school together, and now they're in intermediate school together. And I'm surprised that we've never had play dates. And I was like, yeah, because my children didn't have kid lives until recently. Like, they lived in that bakery with me because my husband used to travel for work a lot. So if I was in at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm waking up a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old in the carrier and carrying the other one in, and then into kindergarten. It was the same thing. Sometimes the Gingered Peach used to have a couch. And what most people don't know is it's like this old grandma couch. Most people don't know the reason I have that couch is because it was a pull-out bed. So my kids would sleep while I baked, and then I'd brush their teeth in the bathroom and get them dressed and take them to daycare or school. Wow. So they were on my hip up until maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. The first 3 years, it was me and those kids in that bakery. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a lot.
Wow, what a start.
Yeah.
But one that has continued to grow, and now you have the support of additional family members.
I do. Okay, look, I went, I'm not coming there. And then I got here and I was like, wow, because now it's like my home, so it's different, right? And I've also, I don't know, I feel like I'm like spicing things up a little bit around here. And so now it's kind of like, I feel like a part of my personality is ingrained into Lawrenceville. So now I'm basically telling all my family members, like, you should come live here. And I've slowly have moved about, 40% of my family to Lawrenceville. And I'm going for the 100%. I'm going to get the rest. So now, I'm surrounded by family, and I'm lucky that, as the Gingered Peach has grown, they were looking at their careers and saying, well, can I just come work for you? And I was like, sure. I never intended on this being a family business. This was going to be my thing. Right. But, now, my brother just left teaching after 15 years.
Yeah.
To join the Gingered Peach's front end team.
Well, I enjoy going down the line and meeting a number of those family members. Mm-hmm. Joe, we're going to take a break for a couple of minutes.
Sounds good.
We'll be back after a message from Tom McManaman at Stimulus Brand.
Hi everyone, I'm Tom McManaman from Stimulus Brand. If I asked you to describe your brand without showing me your logo or stating your tagline, could you? Think of it this way: your logo, your tagline, your marketing is the show and tell for what your brand does. At Stimulus Brand, we love creating identities and advertising around your brand. We do it well, but to be successful, we first investigate, we ask questions. We seek to understand the culture inside your company, your products, and most importantly, your customer experience. This reveals the truth of your brand and leads us to create the show and tell in fresh, proprietary, and memorable ways. There's a story behind every brand, which is in fact the brand itself. Demonstrated in real and relevant ways, there's a high chance your brand will be trusted, admired, and successful. Learn what we can do for your brand. Visit stimulusbrand.com.
Looking for something fun to do? How about spending the day outside with the family? Or a romantic date with wine? What about lunch with a view? Feed your adventurous appetite with all that Mercer County has to offer. Come visit us again soon. We've missed you. Mercer County is open for business.
Welcome back, audience. We're here with Joe Canady-Brown from the Gingered Peach. Joe, we were talking earlier in the show about family, and you and I could probably go on for a while. I'd want to tell you about mine because, again, you've got some great stories, and there's stories to come. Mm-hmm. But I did want to ask you about the community again, and you've settled your business into Lawrenceville.
Yeah.
And your business plan includes expansion.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about how you've shaped the Gingered Peach, but also business to come that will complement Gingered Peach and the other businesses in town.
Sure. So once I realized like the Gingered Peach was going to make it, like that I had created something special. I'm like, oh wow, this is it. You know, the traditional method an entrepreneur or someone in food industry follows is, listen, we figured out how to do this one thing really great, just duplicate it, right. You know, make 10 more, right? That's how we end up with 1,000,005 guys and whatever it may be. I just feel like something gets lost in that. Mm-hmm. Like, there's something really special about there being just one Gingered Peach. Plus, it allows me, the reason the Gingered Peach can do the work it does is because I'm there every day, every single day. And even though I'm not hawking over the employees, they know that if something goes wrong, I'm right there. If they have a question, I'm right there. So when I thought about the trajectory of where the Gingered Peach was going to go, and I've now settled into this cute little town, and we all, you know, I'm surrounded by a couple different businesses. We've got Chambers Walk, we've got Acacia, Wildflower, Vidalia. We just got a comic book shop. I just convinced my friends to open a nail salon called Top Coat. Shout out to Marsha. So now the Main Street has like a nail salon, right? Because I really want to see that Main Street get built up. So in doing that, I said, well, you know, for me personally, what do I actually want for myself at the end of the day as an entrepreneur? Like, what is the end goal here? Mm-hmm. And the end goal for me, when I look at how we grow, is I just want to make one place incredibly special, mm-hmm. and that's Lawrence. So any expansion that comes from the Gingered Peach will be dedicated solely to Lawrence.
And in doing so, you've involved discussions with your landlord and a relationship that has grown.
That man wishes he never met me, but not like that. Like we have the best relationship, and that's so unusual. Shout out to Gary Holfish. I hope you're watching. I'm saying nice things about you. We have a really great relationship. You know, we're 35 years apart in age, mm-hmm. but like we have such a great relationship. And when he saw me struggling because of the sheer size of our building, you know, you could tell that was weighing on him, and he just intervened to help make it possible for us to expand.
And the design includes a vision for a place called Marmalade.
Called Marmalade, yep. And so Marmalade is, okay, I'm going to try to make this as short as possible. Okay. We're faced with two problems. One, we don't make bread. And it's not because we don't have the skill set or don't know how to make bread. Good bread baking ovens have large footprints, mm-hmm. and we can't even get it through the door at the Gingered Peach. So that's out. So I was like, okay, we have to make bread. But how do we make bread profitable? But then the other piece was every year in the summer, Lawrenceville does something called Music in the Park, where the restaurants come and they serve food. Now, I'll never forget, it was like my first year in business. So I've been open like 8 months at this point. And the director of that organization that throws it says, hey, will you do Music in the Park? I say, of course I will. I'm a bakery. You know I'm a bakery. It says a bakery. All I do is bake things. And she's like, will you do this? Every restaurant participates. I say, no problem. 3 days before the event, she says, what is your menu going to be? I said, I'm going to bring brownies, muffins, what the stuff I bake.
Right.
And she's like, no. This is like a dinner event. And I genuinely believe that throwing me into the fire with that comment changed my life.
Yes.
Because she said to me, you have to make like a meal. I'm like, a meal? What? And immediately I panic because it's too late to get more bread for the event. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I go, you know what? I already committed to this. I'm just going to cook food I was raised cooking.
Right.
My dad is black. My grandmother's from the South. My grandfather is Italian. West New York is majority Hispanic population. My cousins are Puerto Rican, and my really good friend Marcia is Korean. So you can imagine all these people and their mothers and their grandmothers have taught me to cook throughout my years because I love food. So I basically went, I'm going to cook food I know how to cook. I made moro, which is like black rice. I made maduros. I made pork, all this. And I just went out there because I had already committed. But I was shocked. The response from the community was like, what is this food? I've never tried it. What is this? And I'm like, it's regular people food.
Right.
And seriously, they're laughing. It was regular people food.
Right.
But I realized it wasn't. It was my story of what regular people food is. And then people wouldn't stop. They were coming into the Gingered Peach. They would buy a muffin, and then they're like, where are the empanadas? And I'm just like, that was a one-time outdoor thing. I was working on little fryers, my grill from my house. Like, this is how ghetto this operation was. But then I realized, like, there's a demand for regular people food.
Right.
And we need to make bread. You know what else is made? Well, the regular person food is made with bread? Sandwiches. And how do we make bread more profitable? Let's open a luncheonette that's a reflection of my upbringing,
Right.
what I think the new American luncheonette looks like. We're used to grilled cheeses and hamburgers, but bibimbap is part of Korean culture and how you use leftovers to make a meal. I grew up making arroz con gandules. Like, that's our bread. So marmalade is going to be a testament to what I think the new short order food of America looks like in Lawrenceville, anchored by the Gingered Peach. So they'll share things. The Gingered Peach will bake pies that Marmalade will sell inside the luncheonette.
So it'll increase your capacity because you're
Marmalade will have 60 seats, and it's sit down.
But baking capacity.
And it'll increase our baking capacity. So what we did was we split the building and we put 800 square feet of baking space into Marmalade to help the Gingered Peach. To bring that into perspective, that's 30% more baking space than the Gingered Peach has now. So we're not just doubling the Gingered Peach's baking capacity, we're coming up like another 20-25%. So now we can serve the customer of Lawrence a little bit better too.
And you have the cooperation of that wonderful landlord.
We do. He's doing he basically turned over a building his father built 50 years ago. There was a plan for it, but then the neighbor behind it was like, I don't want this going here. So they just stopped the plan. So it's literally cinder block, and he's turning it into a usable building for us to, inhabit.
And again, with this design, Joanne, this is going to complement the other restaurants.
It is, because a lot of the restaurants in the area run restaurants in general, dinner is where you make your money. It's how you pay your employees. It's how you make your rent. And what I didn't want to do was introduce another business that's going to compete against the businesses that already exist.
It complements it.
It complements it instead. Like right now, some of the folks do lunch, but it's not their busiest time.
Right.
So for me, no one does breakfast. So, and Marmalade is going to be incredibly breakfast heavy. And that's where I imagine a majority of our revenue will sit when I look at the projections for it. So we're going to have like a breakfast, like an old school luncheonette with like a little bit of a southern flair to it.
Great. Well, you know that I'll be in line to get in.
I hope so.
But it's not going to be the end of your vision for the area. We've talked a bit about today the need for bread and bread baking.
Yeah. And then also having trained people who know how to do that, right? And the problem is, bread is like a labor of love, and it's a lifetime of learning because there's yeast in our air, and that's how you make levain, and that's how you rise dough unless you use commercial yeast. And luckily we have YouTube now, but like traditionally you would have to go to a very expensive bread baking school to do that. But at the Gingered Peach, we try to teach people who just want to learn to be a baker, who are interested in the work that we do. So kind of the long-term goal for the Gingered Peach is, well, how do we continue to grow our team, and how do we keep that same learning environment, and how do we also use that to help benefit a community that we think would love to have this here. So our end goal is to have a teaching kitchen in Trenton that if you wanted to learn how to bake, you can come and bake with us, and you learn through doing. It's not sitting in the classroom, like you learn through doing. And then after 18 months or 2 years and you've worked with us and you've baked everything with us and you feel great, now go into the world with your new skill set and do something great and put more bakers out there to spread the love.
And enjoy that time that you're coming together to learn this skill.
Yeah, like let's learn this, because listen, baking is not hard. It just requires that you pay attention. And I think people get overwhelmed because it's science. You know, you can't just, it's not like cooking. I'm just gonna add a little bit more of this. You put more salt, you're killing your yeast, right? If it's too hot in the kitchen, their dough's gonna rise faster, so you have to bring back your time.
And if I was in your kitchen, you'd have to say, John, turn that music down.
Turn the music down. Well, that is one thing. There's music blasting everywhere in the Gingered Peach, because I think environment is incredibly important. And I love music, and working with just great music in the background makes the day go a little bit better.
Or the early morning. So what was on your playlist at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Oh my gosh. So, okay, what was I listening? You know what I'm really into right now, and
What's
I can't believe I am. Like this morning, I got in at 3 a.m., like 2:45, powered up the ovens, and I put Doja Cat radio on. First of all, that's what my daughter's listening to, but it's so catchy. And Drake just dropped a new album, but that's okay for me. And Post Malone just dropped a new album. So that's what I was listening to this morning. Doja Cat, Drake, and Post Malone. But yesterday I was listening to the Lumineers.
So it's an eclectic mix.
It's an eclectic mix. It's an eclectic mix.
Good. As it should be. Joe, we've talked about the business in Lawrenceville, your plans and hopes for Trenton, but you're already involved in Trenton. Can you tell our audience, again, a little bit about the work that you do with Task, with Trenton Area Soup Kitchen? You know, one of the things, like as I realized like my profile was growing, right, the really cool thing, the really annoying thing about that is like, you're always being watched. And that's so uncomfortable. Right. The really cool thing about that is that now you have a platform, even if it's a small one, for change. And you can utilize that platform for change. And a big thing for me is food insecurity. Like, I grew up in a home full of love, but I grew up in a home that lacked resources. And I know what it's like to not have, like, we were on food stamps. And we eventually were able to get off of it. But it was difficult. And I think one of the basic rights, human rights, is that someone should have the ability to eat. And it's very hard for me when I look, especially when you think about how much food we waste, to see that we are still struggling with food insecurity. So I knew that part of the Gingered Peach, for the Gingered Peach, I don't believe in selling day-old product. That's just me. You should eat what we baked today. It should be fresh. I also don't believe in discounting my food. I don't believe in putting it on sale. I don't believe in putting it on sale. I didn't get paid half price. I didn't pay my team half price to make it. Are you crazy? Instead, I would much rather donate it to people who need it. So at the end of the day, our partnership with Task is whatever the Gingered Peach doesn't sell goes to Task. And I'll tell you this, it makes me feel so much better than the money or a 50% off croissant would have. And it's created this really amazing relationship with them. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for having me. Oh, it's great to sit down. Thank you for being part of, it's not the Today Show set, but we are thrilled to have you here, and I can't thank you enough for coming in and taking the time out of a busy day. Thank you so much for having me. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with the next episode and some guests that hopefully will rival Joe in terms of her influence on our area. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.